Sorry, no sound. It's on now. There we go. We've got the sound. So apologies for that. So hopefully we're coming across loud and clear. Yeah, apologies for that. You would have thought I would have thought of that. But yeah, this is Talking Boxing. This is your show. This is where we've got a bit of an agenda to go through. I'll go through it tonight, the Australian and world news, and then we'll get into. What I'm going to do tonight is my top 10 now. This is Australian boxers of all time. Now, if you haven't seen the first episode that we did probably about 12 months ago, we did what we did is a what do you call it? A top 10 Aussies, and we rated them all from 1 to 10. Hopefully you can hear me there, guys. And we did it in our very first episode, so check it out. Did it with myself, Tassie Brown, Peter Maniatis, and Mike Altamura. So that was good. So I'm going to go just revisit tonight. And I want your feedback. I want your opinions on who we went for, and I'll be interested to hear your point of view. So if you've got a comment or a question or something you want to bring up, make sure you put it in the comment section there, and I'll do my best to answer it. As I said, we've got a little bit to get through. As I said, the world news and Aussie news. A little bit going on, and so if you've got a comment, as I said, put it in the comment there. Sorry, guys, I'm just sort of getting organised here. You would think that I was that I'd be ready to go, but I'm not tonight. So, all right, here we go. All right, so get on to the Aussie news for starters. Kambosos and Haney. Oh, actually, before I start, I'm going to start with Kambosos and Haney in a sec. The reason why we're on YouTube only, I've got to tell this story because we normally do Facebook, which is where we get most of our viewers from. So I'm not expecting a hell of a lot of people on tonight. But the reason we're on YouTube and not Facebook is for some reason, somewhere along the line, someone doesn't like my program or the content or whatever it might be, and I've been barred. So when I first did this episode, I did a bit of a test. So I had a private little incognito channel that we tested it on. I literally did not say a word. I was sitting there and I was testing the microphone, I was testing the camera, I was looking at myself and the lighting and all that sort of stuff. Well, in their good wisdom, they decided to give me a 24-hour warning. Now, it must have been I didn't think anything of it. I thought, oh, well, it must be a mistake and blah, 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 blah. When I did my first episode, I got a 4-day ban. And I thought, geez, that can't be good. And then after that, I did nothing. Actually, I might have got a 7-day ban after that. And I must have been, I still couldn't get my head around what was going on. They said I was breaching terms and conditions and policies and all that bullshit. Fact of the matter is, they couldn't give me an actual reason why I was banned. But anyway, so about 10 weeks have gone by, nothing. I woke up Tuesday morning after last week's episode, and there's a little thing saying I've been permanently banned from Facebook. I messaged them and asked them what the go was. They didn't give me a reason. They said I was a repeated offender of all the rules and regulations and all that bullshit, and I've been kicked off. So it's not good because my business was on there as well. I had 10,000 followers on my business page. I know what some of you are saying, why didn't you get someone else to be an admin? I didn't think of that. I didn't think I would actually be banned from the platform. The good news is I've actually got another Facebook page up, but I'm not going to test the waters on that. So here we are. You'll see, hopefully this is coming across loud and more importantly clear. This is a new program I'm using in this one. If it does happen to crash or something happens, I'll go back to the old one. It's more of an app-based one, this one, rather than an internet one. So let's see how we go. But as I said, guys, if you've got a question, comment, or statement, or a topic you want to bring up, as I said, put it in there, and I'll do my best to answer them. But we're going to get into tonight's agenda. Now, the first one, as I started with there, was Kambosos Haney 2. There was a big announcement. Well, we all know it's obviously happening. So that will be happening, October 16th, which is a Sunday here. So and I think the night before is Paro and Jarvis. So they're going to have a press conference tomorrow from the States, and we'll see what happens there. So I think we all know what's going to happen. Oh, hang on. I've just lost myself there. There we go. I'm back. Sorry, I was going to put a slide in there that didn't work, so apologies for that. So Kambosos Haney, I'm going to bring up the undercard here. I'm not sure whether they've actually got anything out there at the moment, but I will check. Where are we? Kambosos and Haney. big week that will be if that is the case. And I think I'm not sure it's been officially announced. If it is, hang on, what have we got there? So we've got a comment there from fans. Thanks, mate. Thanks for tuning in. As I said, I'm not expecting big amounts of custom or viewers tonight because the majority of them come via Facebook. We normally get 200 or 300 that view it over the week afterwards, but we'll see how we go. So look, it's a little bit of a, as I said, a test thing. It's an opportunity to get things right. So if it does play up, I can obviously go back and fix it. So it's not the end of the world that we don't have a shitload of viewers in this one, but hopefully we get a few anyway. So right, I'm going to bring up the Australian box rec just so see if there's any undercard fights. What do we got? I'll see if I can screen share in a minute there. So the fight is, I'm not sure they've actually got October. Where are we? So no undercard fights just yet. They have got the Paro Brock Jarvis fight up, which is good. That'll be on DAZN. So that's in South Bank Piazza in South Brisbane. So look out for that one. Thanks, James, for tuning in, mate. As I said, I'm a little bit unorganised tonight. I've got so much going. It's a new program, so just bear with me, guys. I'm going to get through it. Your comments would be very, very much appreciated because it allows the conversation to go and just doesn't have me talking for an hour. So come on and get the comments in. Now, the other thing I will sound the video all good. Well, that's even better. I'm not sure you guys log in every week. The picture's always shit. It's atrocious. And it's just not good. So I'm trying something a little bit different. So we'll see how we go. Thanks, Andy. Yep, pic's much more clear. Thank you. Well, it's probably maybe not a good thing because you've got to see my head, but I just want to get it more and more professional. And the aim is that as we go, I'll be able to bring you guys on. Now, I do it with our other program. I've brought people in before and done interviews, but I just want to make sure that we get it right. Because when I do the other ones, it's a record, or we record it. And when I'm downloading you guys in and I've got to upload it, it tends to bug out a little bit. So I'm hoping that we can get that fixed. So tonight's a bit of a test case on that as well. So I'm glad that it's coming across all loud and clear. Let's hope it stays that way. We always tend to get rainy nights and overcast skies when I do this on a Monday night, but it is what it is, and we'll keep going. So, all right, so there's nothing on there at the moment for the Haney Kambosos undercard. I have heard, though, and I think it's no secret, the Maloney boys will be on there, and probably other Melbourne-based fighters. I'm assuming they'll have to appease the Top Rank and whoever else is involved in it as well. So we'll see what happens there. So yeah, look out for that. It's on in the morning. I think it's on. Is it 10 o'clock our time? I should know this. Let's have a look. It is. It's going to be on Ozboxing and Ozboxing Central and Main Event. So it will be on 10 o'clock in the morning. It's on, so make sure you check that out. It's a good time to have it. I like the fact they've put it on a Tuesday morning because there's no use putting it on a Monday or probably an LA day because footy at the moment is just flooding the airways and the news sites. So good time to actually do it. So love to hear your thoughts on Kambosos Haney too, guys. Who wins and why? I think we all agree that George is going to be up against it. I think, yes, he's probably going to improve. Yes, he's going to probably bring a few more things to the table. But I have said in the past, I don't think he can win if he stays with the exact same team that he had last time. Yes, they might learn a few things or work on a few things, but so will Haney. They're going to watch that tape back. They're probably going to preempt what George is going to bring to the table. So I just think that maybe they might be one step ahead. He's got a very good team behind him. So I'd just like to see them bring in someone else. I know they had Mick Ackaway for the first fight. Obviously, that didn't go according to plan. There was a fallout there over different things, and that's their business. But it'll be nice to see them bring someone in who can maybe add a new dimension to George, because I just didn't like the fact in that first fight there was no plan B, definitely no plan C. If anything, there struggled to be a plan A. So I'm hoping that they bring someone in, try something a little bit different. We just seen it on the weekend with AJ and Usyk that we'll get to soon. He brought in Robert Garcia to try something different. Had a massive crack at it, but it just didn't work. Just didn't work for him on the weekend. So I'd like to see George do the same thing. Just put something a little different spin on it. Because let's face it, unless he puts a different spin on his game plan, the same thing's going to happen again. Unless he can cut down that ring, at least he can get past that jab. It's going to be the same old thing. It's going to be a 10 round to 2, 9 rounds to 3 fight. And, it's just going to be back to square one for George. So we'll see what happens there. I'm really looking forward to the fight. I'm really curious to see what George does. Also curious to see what Devin Haney does. Let's face it, he probably doesn't have to do anything because he just has to go through the same thing as he did. But I've got a feeling he's going to want to probably maybe pick it up a little bit this time. He's going to want to try and maybe put it on George a little bit, punish him a little bit more. Because all he did last time, let's face it, it was in George's hometown or home country, home stadium. 99% of the people who were there for George, and I think he just did enough to get the win. I think this time he's going to know the lay of the land. He's going to, even though it's a different arena, same city, everything like that. So I've got a feeling that he's going to probably be a little bit more comfortable. He's going to try and put it on George a little bit. It'll be interesting to see on another matter what he's going to do for his training camp, because he did upset a few people. I don't know whether you guys saw it, but when he got back to the States after the first George fight, he said he knocked out 7 or 8 guys and he was knocking out all his sparring partners and no one could get near him. Well, I know for a fact that wasn't the case. I know lots of guys, the guys that actually sparred him, I know people that were there, I know a lot of people in the know. He said he had some very, very good sparring. Jason Malia was one. I think, was it Kane Clark? I think was another one. Who really put it on Devin Haney and made him work. So, and as far as knocking out all his sparring partners, that definitely was not the case. So make of it what you will. But he trained at the Team Alice gym last time. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. Look, I think Team Alice would say, hey, come on in. It does them the world of good having someone like him there. The amount of publicity and probably new members they got out of that, I think you can't knock that back. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. James Daly, what do you got there, mate? Will be a big upset if George wins, but he's caused one before against Teo. Yeah, no, good point, mate, 100%. I'm not saying he can't win, I just don't think he will. But having said that, I thought the same thing when he fought Teofimo Lopez. So, look, if he brings that, look, I'm not sure. I think I've said it on our past episodes, whether it was this one or the deep dive show, that George would have had the weight of the nation on his country. We saw it with Jeff Fennick 30 years ago when he fought Azuma Nelson. All the interviews, all the public appearances, trying to promote the show up, all that sort of thing. I think it took away from him last time, just like it did with Jeff Fennick. And, I'm hoping this time he might forego a lot of that and just concentrate on the job at hand. Because, look, he would have felt obliged to do everything in that last event. And he did. He literally did everything. And I remember in the lead-up thinking, geez, I just hope he hasn't taken on too much, because every time you looked on the news or on social media or whatever it might be, there was George. He's signing autographs and taking photos, which is great. It's great that he does that. But I would think this time, I would hope that he would say to some of those news outlets, look, maybe say yes to every second or third one, not everyone that he did last time. So, just be a little bit more focused on the event. All right, what do we got there? Hope George brings some unpredictability. Hope he's able to make adjustments during the fight too. Well, that's what we didn't see in the first fight, was it? There was no adjustments. There was no unpredictability. I think it was pretty obvious from the start. I think it was no secret the way Devin Haney was going to fight. He was going to box. He was going to hold. He was going to step off. He was going to use the jab, and that's what he did. I was surprised and disappointed that George he had nothing. And for 12 rounds, he did exactly the same thing. Look, it's easier said than done. I mean, we're out here, why don't you just get in there and bang him to the body and go to the head? Well, it's a bit hard when you've got a very, very elite, world-class fighter, throwing punches at you and with the footwork and defence that he had. So it's not that easy. But having said that, maybe spend a round where he just put it all on the line and just went for it. And if he wore a couple coming in, rough him up, get in his face, maybe bowl over that big right hand that he did against Lopez just to try and, shake things up a little bit. There was just nothing. And I would have thought maybe, that's what I said before about bringing someone else in the camp. Maybe after the 6th round, 5th, 6th, 7th round, just someone to come in with something a little bit different. And as I said, it's not, it's easier said than done, but just something, because we didn't see anything. It was literally the same thing round after round after round after round. So let's hope we can see something. All right, what we got there? Geez, I thought Dev was more humble than that. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you've seen that, mate, but he he was on social media when he got back. I think actually might have been an podcast or whatever it might be, and he said that he knocked out 8 opponents, sparring partners, which, as I said, was not the case at all. So any other questions you got there, guys? Put them in there. That's Kambosos Haney 2. Looking forward to it. October 16th. It's a Sunday. One question I will ask is with the Paro and Jarvis fight the night before, if they're both pay-per-views, obviously the George one's going to be pay-per-view. If the Paro-Jarvis fight is, and I would expect it to be, are you going to pay for both fights? And if you are, which one are you going to buy? I've got a feeling I don't know which one you're going to say. It's going to be Kambosos Haney, but geez, to be honest with you, I'm more looking forward to Paro and Jarvis. I think it's going to be a ripper. I really do. Now, I can understand to some extent Eddie Hearn probably trying to get some publicity on the back of the Haney-Kambosos fight. I'm not quite sure he's done his homework on Australia, though, the Australian media. I just think it might get lost in the mix. I think all the focus is going to be on Kambosos and Haney. I'm just not quite sure they're going to get the attention that they need. And if it's pay-per-view, they're going to double up, because I know both fighters aren't getting paid as much as they might demand, maybe overseas or even in Australia or as a standalone show. I'm not quite sure whether that's the case. I think in this instance they've taken a pay cut, but will it be enough to generate that type of money? So it's an interesting one. James, I like seeing Haney do some community work in Melbourne. Yeah, good point. I did focus on obviously what he said, but yeah, you're right, 100%, mate. He went to a couple of gyms, did some community work with some local kids. I think he might have went to Fitzroy All-Stars with the Indigenous kids down there and done some work. So we all know Robbie Payne does work down there as well. So that was great, and that's what you want to see. So I'm not sort of having a real crack at him for what he said. It's more of having a laugh at it more than anything, and sort of calling him out on it. But he was humble. There's probably a few words spoken after the fact when he had the belts. But that's maybe the American coming out in him. But look, I had no problem with it at all. I thought they all conducted themselves great, and I'm sure they'll do the same this time. Be interesting to see whether it's maybe a spiteful this time, or maybe both teams, just especially from Georgia's side. We all know that his dad can get involved a little bit, so maybe let's hope that they can just focus on the job at hand and forget all the posturing and all the bullshit with the insults. And you remember the press conference for the first fight where George, did he call him a traitor or a snitch or a spy or whatever it might have been, because Devin Haney, did he give some, he was texting George or something about fighting when he fought Teofimo Lopez, so he called him a traitor. Devin Haney come back with the absolute best response. He said, well, mate, you were over there sparring with Manny Pacquiao when he was preparing for Jeff Horn. So even though George said it was a different case, I don't think it was. So I'm not sure he would have banked on that response. But yeah, so let's hope we see a little bit more professionalism, because I think fans, they see through that a little bit. It's good to some extent. We like to get everyone jazzed up, and that's great. But it got to the point where it was just a bit of a farce in the end, I thought. And too many heads in there, too many heads in the photos and the videos and all that sort of stuff. I don't like it. I commented actually on the deep dive show last week, even with the Joshua Usyk final face-off, and there's Eddie Hearn's face right there, and the two guys. Enough interviews and footage goes on there with all the team and the promoters. Just sometimes step out and give the guys their own little, bit of clean air where it's just the fighters. I'm sick of seeing promoters. I'm sick of seeing parents. I'm sick of seeing hangers-on all trying to get their heads in there. It just pisses me off. There's nothing worse. So let's hope they just, as I said, be professional and get on with it. On the weekend, guys, I'll just sort of jump around a little bit. Let's get on to the world news as well. I'll go back and forth. But obviously, Alexander Usyk got the 12-round decision win over Anthony Joshua. It was 115, 113, 116, 112, both for Usyk, and 115 to 113 for Joshua. I probably had it 116, 112. I thought Joshua actually fought pretty well. I really liked the fact that he tried to bring something new to the table, and getting Robert Garcia involved. I thought he tried really, really hard, but unfortunately Usyk just had that style where, being that little bit smaller, he was able to be in and out before Joshua could set himself. He threw the volume of punches, really upset him, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of back in the day when Larry Holmes fought Michael Spinks, and that was back in 1980. 35, I think it was. So, oh, sorry, I just lost my camera there. Where are we? There we go. Boxer. Yeah. So back in the day, Larry Holmes was going for 49-0. He was 48-0 going into the fight. Michael Spinks came up, and even though Michael Spinks was outweighed by 20 or 30 pound, he was in, he was out, he was moving around. He didn't stand still for a second. He would punch and then get out of there. He would punch through 3, 4, 5 punches, and he would get out of there. And Larry just did not have the ability to go with him because it's such a bigger man. That's what it reminded me of in the weekend. Joshua tried hard, but once fatigue started to set in and Usyk found his range and was warmed up and found his volume, you see it later in the fight when I think after 8 or 9 rounds, it was still anyone's fight, but I thought that Usyk, he started throwing 4, 5, 6 punches at a time and Joshua just couldn't go with him. And, and that was it. Of course, we all know what happened after the fight, which was intriguing too, was that Anthony Joshua, it almost looked a little bit like the WWE, didn't it? I felt really sorry for Anthony Joshua. And I saw a video today, and I wanted to bring it up, and it was from Ben Sava. He put on Instagram. If you don't follow him, check it out. He put on there, and it made so much sense, and he hit it right on the head. And he just put his 2 cents on why Joshua pretty much had a meltdown in front of the whole world. Now, his thoughts is that Anthony Joshua, he's an elite athlete. He's a winner, world champion, all that sort of stuff. Very, very, very hard to accept defeat. Now, sometimes if you haven't prepared properly, you sort of know in the back of your mind, maybe you might have done too much. Maybe you've done not enough. Maybe you've had troubles with weight, although that wouldn't obviously have been a problem with Joshua. Maybe you've just had disruptions in your camp. So many different things. But if you get out of there and you go, okay, well, this might have happened, you can sort of see why he would accept it. I've got a feeling, like Ben said today, that Joshua, after that fight, knew that his camp was perfect. He knew his game plan. He stuck to it. He knew that he fought exactly the way that he was supposed to fight, and he still come up short, and he just couldn't handle it. And that's why he melted down. And, as Apollo Creed says in Rocky 3, when he got, and they're about to spar, and he says, you beat me by 1 second. That's something that's very hard for a man of his intelligence to handle. I think that's a little bit the same as Joshua. He gave it everything, and he knows there was nothing else that he could have done, and he still fell short. So that's why I think he had the meltdown afterwards. He was so frustrated. He was obviously upset, and he let it spill over. Do I condone what he did? No, but I can understand what he did because he took away Usyk's moment. Usyk, I don't think he understands English that well anyway. I think he got the gist of what was going on, and he conducted himself really well. But while I was disappointed with Joshua's antics, I'm not surprised by it because it would have been very, very hard for him to handle. He just got beat by a better guy. It's as simple as that. I've got a comment there. Andy, what have we got, mate? Great rematch. Agreed, AJ was better in second, but Usyk just on another level. Hopefully we see heavyweight undisputed. Well, that was going to be my next point. Will we see, excuse me, will we get a Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk unification fight? Now, if you listen to what they both have to say, they both said, well, Fury's saying, show him the money and I'll come back. I think he wants the fight. I think he just wants to make the most of his, time in the spotlight to make people, be wondering what's going to happen. Usyk said that he only wants Fury or nobody. Now, he's 35, I think it is. Fury's only 34, which is actually, when you think about it, not that old for heavyweights, especially for Fury at 35. You could have 4, 5, 6 years left in him if you wanted to. I can understand he's probably made hundreds of millions of dollars, so I can understand why he doesn't want it. But I'm sure both of them, I think we'll see the fight, firstly. I think the fight will get made. The demand and the money to be made will make the fight happen. I don't think, the only spanner in the works I could probably see is that Fury's going to want to be paid based on a Joshua fight, not on an Usyk fight. And can the fight generate enough? It won't be as big. I think it'll still be massive, but it's obviously not going to be as big, especially in England, as Fury and Joshua. So while Fury's going to be saying, all right, I want, I don't know, pick a number, 200 million or $500 million or whatever he said the other day, he might only get half of that by fighting Usyk because the money's just not going to be there. So will he do it or not? So I hope he does. I think he will, but I think it's going to be a bit of posturing going back and forth, I would think, at this stage. So let's see what happens there. So Andy, again, great comparison with Larry and AJ losses. Yep, AJ post-fight tantrum was bizarre. It certainly was. just shows how passionate AJ is, I guess. Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, the thing is, you've almost got to be in that position to know what he was feeling. And we did see after the fight, in the change room, he did actually get out of the ring, I will say, and was prompted to get back into the ring by his team, which I think was a really good move. I would have hated to see him get out the ring, chuck his tantrum and spit the chewy, and that was it. Even though what he said in the ring I probably don't agree with, but the fact that he got in the ring and he took a breath, I wasn't really a fan of throwing the belts out of the ring and, as I said, carrying on like a WWE wrestler, but I think eventually he will get peace of mind. And I still wouldn't be surprised if Fury fights him as well. We've seen it with Canelo fighting Triple G now. Even though he's coming off a loss or 2 losses, could he fight him instead? So Anthony Joshua's actually came out and said he wants to fight again before the end of the year. Does that suit Fury as well? So it'd be an interesting one, because even though you would think the Fury-Usyk fight is going to happen, as I said, I still wouldn't be surprised if it's Fury and Joshua. I think he still makes more money off the Joshua fight than what he does off the Usyk fight. As strange as that sounds. So we'll see what happens there. Eddie Hearn, of course, wasn't very complimentary of Tyson Fury afterwards either. And look, he did have a bit of a point. Tyson has come out and said in the past that he's had mental health problems and he's really struggled with a lot in his private life. And then to come out and bag the fight and bag Joshua for a guy that looks like obviously he's got some problems, was it in poor taste. I don't think Tyson really meant it to be in poor taste. I think he was just, look, he's so much like Conor McGregor, or they're so much like themselves, aren't they? He would have taken the opportunity to hang shit on Joshua at the same time, hang shit on Usyk while he's at it, and just be out there. We've seen it, as I said, with Conor McGregor. After every single big UFC show, there's Conor McGregor baiting someone out there and getting himself in the social media or regular media. So, maybe that's the same with Tyson Fury. They're both characters. We need them both in the sport, but I think that's what it was. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. What do we got here? Fury by KO, probably. Dollars in the Middle East. Yeah, well, you're right. That could be... could make the fight happen. I don't know about you. I don't want us to see fights like these massive fights just go to the country with the highest bid. And I know it's a business. I understand that. I know this is the way it works and whoever's going to put up the dollars. But I want to see these big fights in boxing countries and cities. I want to see the big fights in London or Vegas or New York. And I know everyone travels over there, but it's all really the richies that go over there. I mean, the average punter from England, is not going to be able to... Well, I know they do get a lot of fans that fly all over the world, but to be able to fly to Dubai or wherever it was, Saudi Arabia, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see the fight in London. Or, if you fight Usyk, it could be in Vegas. I don't know. I think it would make more sense in London, but it all comes down to the dollars. I understand that, but... Yeah, as I said, I'd rather it in proper fight capitals. But so as I said, yeah, so Fury, Usyk. The other one on the weekend, just a quick one. Sergey Lipinets stopped Omar Figueroa in the 9th round. If you didn't know about that one, Lipinets coming on 4 or 5 days' notice when Adrian Broner dropped out at the last minute as a last-minute replacement to fight Figueroa and got the job done. Stopped him in 9 rounds. So that's what happens, I suppose. We've seen it in the past, late replacements coming in, but I saw that and thought it was very interesting that he's coming off 5 days. I think he might have been scheduled to fight maybe closer, might have been on the same card. I can't remember. So he would have been fit to go. But when you've got to change your whole mindset and everything, the replacements come in and upset the favourite. Back to Aussie news on the weekend. Susie Ramadan was back. She beat Tamata Akuda. Decision are over, I think it was 8 rounds, I think. So apparently she's fighting for the WBA world title, bantamweight title, on the what card is it? The Kambosos Haney card. So good on Susie to have her back. We might just go back to, got a comment there. Fury said he's retired now. He's still in the limelight. Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. He's retired. He's unretired. He's retired again. I'm back. I'm not back. Show me the checkbook. I'll do it for free. Who knows with Tyson, but we still love him. Now, the reason I bring up the Susie Ramadan fight is that she's fighting for the WBA title on the Kambosos Haney undercard. Now, it happens to be the WBA, I think it's the version of the bantamweight title. Now, that's the same division that Ebony Bridges and Shannon O'Connell are in. So is the winner of O'Connell and Bridges going to fight another All-Australian fight by fighting Susie Ramadan? She has been at super flyweight, by the way, but she's moving up. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that one. Just on the Shannon O'Connell thing, I said it on our deep dive show last week, Ebony Bridges has requested a voluntary defence. So what do you think about that? Should she get a voluntary defence or should she be made to fight shotgun? Initially, I thought, why wait? Just get it over with. But I did see Eddie Hearn. I think he had the interview with Ben Damon the other day. He did actually make a good point that normally when a champion wins the belt, they do get a voluntary before they get forced into a mandatory. I think she's only prolonging the inevitable, but I did see his point. However, the IBF has said, you've got to fight Shannon, so bring it on. So I think the fight's going to happen. There's a bit going on behind the scenes that I can't say too much about at the moment, but I think it'll get done. But that's the spanner in the works at the moment, is that they've requested a voluntary defence. And when you got Eddie Hearn sort of banging his fist on the table, I think he would be taken notice of. We'll see what happens. But having said that, No Limit are very, very hell-bent on getting this fight and getting it in Australia. They want the fight. If it goes to Perthbridge, who knows what happens there. If you had heard to Eddie Hearn in the interview the other day, said if it happens and he promotes it, he would do it in England, which is surprising as well, isn't it? That you would have two Aussies fighting in England. He did make a good point, though, when he said that Ebony Bridges is probably a bigger name in England than she is in Australia, so it makes sense to take the fight over there, which is not a problem. Shannon will go over there in 2 seconds flat. Give her a week's notice, she'll be on a plane, she'll be over there. So that's not the issue. But I'm really hoping that No Limit win the rights and we get the fight back in Australia. So we'll keep on top of that one. Back to Fury. That must be a gypsy thing, no? I'm not sure. Am I allowed to say gypsy? Because Conor McGregor does the same thing, yeah. We'll call him the Gypsy King. So that's what I said, mate. He does exactly the same thing all the time. McGregor and the Gypsy King do that. So now, just excuse me too here, guys. If it is taking me a little while to bring these up, there is a little bit of a delay. A little bit so that it has a chance to keep good, keep the good stream going, because my internet's not the greatest. So this allows it. So if I am 30 seconds or something behind, that's why. So apologies for that. So who wins? We've got Shotgun deserves her shot, in my opinion. Mando overdue. Yeah, I really feel for Shannon because she's been leapfrogged so many times. She's been leapfrogged by Ebony in the first place. She's now looks like being leapfrogged by Susie, and she was leapfrogged in the first place when Shannon Courtney and Ebony fought. So I really feel for her. Like, she deserves her shot. And look, I've said all along as well, I don't look, even though I think Shannon wins, I think it's a tough fight. Ebony is a good fighter. I think she's still a relatively a novice, but she can fight, and she's gone to England, and her team's good. She's got great sparring, all that sort of stuff. No walk in the park. I still think Shannon wins, but I think it's still no walk in the park. So we'll see what happens there anyway. All right, on to more Aussie news. Dennis Hogan, Sam Eggington. What do you think about that one? Haven't seen a lot of Sam Eggington. I've only seen him fight once or twice. Looks okay. I think that's Dennis's best shot. I know it's only the IBO title, but let's give him his due. He's fighting for a belt that could actually prolong him onto another recognised belt. The IBO, as I said, it's not the most universally recognised belt, but Triple G has held it. I think Canelo might have held one as well. I think Usyk has held it. So they're trying their best to get out there, but I think even if it's a stepping stone to something further down the track, having the belt gives you a lot of leverage. So let's hope that he gets past this one and gets his shot. I thought he was finished, I must admit. Now, I thought when Tim Tszyu did the number on him a year or two ago, I thought that was it for Dennis. I thought he had his chance. Before that, of course, he was pretty much demolished by Charlo. So good on him. Good on Dennis. Let's hope he gets the win. It's it's promoted by No Limit later in the year. I think it might be October or November, I think they're talking about. So we'll see what happens there. Another comment there. Shotgun versus Bomber is quality fight. Yes, it is, mate. And let's hope it happens. I really hope we get that fight. I've said all along, I don't think Ebony wants the fight. I really don't. I think Eddie Hearn said we don't care about fighting Shannon O'Connell. Maybe he doesn't. He's not the one that has to get in there. But I think Ebony Bridges does not want that fight. Probably for a couple of reasons. One, because I don't think she thinks she can win. And two, I think out of spite. She doesn't want Shannon to get an opportunity at her belt. So that's my opinion. Yes, Bridges, never interested in shotgun fight. No. I think the people in her ear would be saying, let's just, hopefully we'll get past this one. Maybe Shannon will get a shot at another title and we don't have to worry about her. Because you know what you're going to get from Shannon. She's going to be in her face. I think she's just an overall better fighter. She's fitter. She's tougher. She's harder. She punches harder. Ebony has got okay skills, but she gasses out. And there's one fighter you don't want to gas out against, and it's Shannon O'Connell. She'll just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. That's why I think Shannon gets the win. I think her skills overall are better as well, but I just think that, the fact that Ebony tends to gas out in those sort of 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, I think that might be the difference in the fight, and Shannon will get the win. All right, another question on Hogan. Hogan probably retires if he loses. Yeah, I think so, James. I think he would definitely have to retire. I just don't think there's nothing much else to fight for. This will be his 4th crack at a world title. So what does he do? And the problem is too. Look, the money's not there. The money's not there for someone like him in this country. You can probably fight in Australia and earn 20 or 30 grand, fighting some of the other guys, but that's a lot of, you fight twice a year and you got to give up. You got to sacrifice a fair bit of your purse, by the way. You probably lose a third of that purse. So if he had 3 fights and earned 30 grand fights, that's 90 grand. Going to lose 30 grand of that straight away, to promoters and his team and all the rest of it. He's got training expenses, which might be another 20 grand. So not walking away with much for the year, earning sort of 40 grand for the year, and you're a full-time fighter. So it's just unfortunately just the way it is here. What do we got here? Still think Hogan was robbed versus Mungia. Yeah, he was, mate. But that's the hard luck story about boxing, unfortunately. He should have won that fight, but didn't. Just like Carlton should have beat Collingwood on the weekend. We didn't, and that's why I'm probably a bit sulky tonight. But, but yeah, you're right. He was robbed against Mungia, but that's boxing. He wasn't the name. He wasn't supposed to win. And in Mexico City, it's always going to be tough. So yeah, I really feel for Dennis in that fight. But unfortunately, that's the sport we're in. And he didn't get the win. But hopefully, he gets it this time. And as I said, prolongs him on to another bigger fight down the track with a more recognised world champion. The other one I wanted to bring up too is this weekend, Georgie Payne is fighting for the WBC Youth World Title, the Youth Lightweight World Title. I think. I don't know exactly how to define the youth part of it, I must admit. It was Mike Altamura tried to explain it to me, or Peter Maniatis tried to explain it to me. I didn't quite get it. I'm not sure whether it's fights or age. Excuse me. I don't think it's the age, because George is 24, I think, and I've got a feeling Pedro Rodriguez might even be older. So I'm not quite sure it's the age, but you would think it was a youth title, that it might be under 21s or 22 or whatever it might be. But I don't know the story. But for the World Youth title, they're fighting in Hamilton, Canada. And if you don't know what that is, it's about half an hour from Toronto in Canada. And they're fighting there this weekend, the 27th. So good luck. John Manu's also fighting undercard as well. He's fighting at light middleweight, if you will. He's actually a light welterweight, but to get the fight, to go over there, he's going to help George out with some sparring and stuff. So he went over there to get a fight. And the only fight they would give him is against a junior middleweight. So I think John's a really, really good fighter. He needs to be a lot more active than what he is. I know we've had COVID and everything else, but I think he's going to be a good fighter. He's had some good wins so far, and I think if he gets some consistency with his career and fights maybe 3 to 4 times a year, I think he's going to be okay. I think he'll be a good fighter. John, it could end up with a DNL or a no limit. So good luck to the boys over there. Brian Butler, of course, the trainer over there. I've had lots of history with Brian, and I'm really happy that he's got a chance over in Canada with George at a world title, a youth world title. Another couple of cards that have been announced, guys. October 7th is a Wildfighter card in Melbourne. It's going to be at St Kilda City Hall. Caesar African Afakan, I think I've pronounced that right, against Mitch Stapleton. Does it really well, George. Sorry, looking at, not George. Will Tomlinson, really good events that he's done so far. Wildfighter, I think it might be Wildfighter 7, it might be, I think, or 8, or whatever it might be. But, yeah, he does really good things, Will. He was supposed to actually team up with Dean Lonergan at D&L at some stage, but couldn't really work out the deal or the particulars, so that fell over. So he's going to do his own broadcast, which I think he does really well. So I think he does really good things, Will, and we'll put on another good show there. So check that one out. The other one is October the 8th, so the day after. Floyd Masson, Ace Boxing, are doing a show up in Queensland. So good to see him back. Bit of a fan of Floyd. I think he goes really, really well. And with the right people behind him, the DeCarlos, I think he'll go okay as well. So just another couple of things, guys, before we get into my top 10 Australian boxers of all time. As I said, I've done this in our very first episode 12 months ago. I'm just going to revisit it tonight in case you haven't seen the list. I'm going to put it up for you guys again if I can get this screen to work. I'm just going to put that in there and see what happens. No, that's all right. All right, so the other thing I did see is Dimitri Bivol is going to fight Gilberto Ramirez on November 5. That is in the United Arab Emirates. So good to see Bivol back, and he's not going to be forgotten. So he'll be back November the 5th. All right, so let's go into some box rec news before we get on to that top 10. And anything else you guys want to talk about, put them in the comment section there. As I said, we're not expecting a lot of viewers tonight because most of them used to watch on Facebook. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to get going again, but we'll get there. I'm just glad that at least we've got a better picture this time anyway, because it has been atrocious in the past. All right, so this weekend, what do we got? So what's the 27th this week? I'm just on box rec at the moment. We are in Wollongong at the Snake Pit Stadium. Shannon Manton will fight Brian Roberts over 10 rounds. I'm not quite sure who's actually promoting that. And on the only one undercard fight on that, so I'm not sure it's a Pro-Am or they haven't updated it. Tonga is fighting Nelson Sampson. So that's both those fights are at cruiserweight. The week after is not too bad. That's in Reversby. I'm not quite sure who's promoting that either. I know the following weekend there is a Thunderdome in Perth, promoted by Tony Tolge and Angelo Hydas. That'll be a good one. I'm just trying to look at the card here for next week. I don't really recognise any of the names. I suppose I'm just trying to see. So it looks like Daniel Carr and Albert Nolan will fight for the Australian Super Featherweight title. That seems to be the main event. Solomon and Beck Moss will fight for the Australasian Flyweight title. And there's a few undercard fights on that as well. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure who's promoting that one. But as I said, the week after, same night, is the Thunderdome with Tony Tolge in Perth. And then on the 3rd is the Ace Boxing one, which will be a ripper. Abdullah Mayweather will fight Ali Elrich for the Australian Super Middleweight title. Ty Narkle will fight Rocky Ogden for the Australian Featherweight title. Adrian Rodriguez will fight Victor Nagby. That'll be a good fight for the Australian Super Welterweight title. And Beck Hawker will fight Holly Towle for the WIBA World Featherweight title. So that's the week after this one. So we'll talk a little bit more about that card next week. And we'll obviously cover it in a bit more detail on the Deep Dive show. Speaking of the IBO, there's our IBO champ right there. Well, Will, yeah, good point, mate. He won the IBO, correct me if I'm wrong, Featherweight World title, I think it was. Not sure whether he'll be watching, but I'm sure he'll correct me if I've got that wrong. But yeah, he won the IBF world title. IBO world title. And I think he might have made a couple of defences as well. So, as I said, doing great things down at Wildfighter round, I'm not sure, as I said, 7, 8, 9, whatever it might be. But it's St Kilda Town Hall, so look out for tickets. Always puts on a good show. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do is go through my top 10 Aussie fighters of all time. Now, the last time I did this with the amateurs, hang on, I've got a comment there. Bivol doesn't want to lose his purse in America again. No, well, probably a good point, mate. I wouldn't either if I was him. He got absolutely starched last time by the powers that be in the States. So, look, I think like one of you guys said earlier, I think he just, that's where the money is. They'll pay him more over there. I'm not sure as I said, Bivol Ramirez and the United Arab Emirates is going to be big news over there. I don't know. It's all about the coin, I suppose. But, you would have thought they probably got too much money over there. Don't know what to do with, to be honest, over in the UAE. But anyway, we'll see what happens in that one. All right, so yeah, as I said, guys, I did do the top 10 amateurs a few weeks ago, and that caused a bit of drama. Look, people will always disagree, and that's fine. Just be tasteful about it. I don't care people disagreeing with what I've got to say, but be professional and tell it the way it is. But a few heroes on social media and all that sort of stuff. But I'm going to go through the top 10 Aussie fighters, professional. That is. And as I said, if you want to check it out on YouTube, it's on there right back at the start of the channel. So there are a couple of parameters involved with this one. All fighters that are born overseas, are from overseas, I've excluded. Unfortunately, that includes Costa Zoo. That did cause a little bit of drama last time. At the end of the day, we love Kostya, but the facts remain that he's he's a Russian fighter who come over and has based himself in Australia. He's not an Australian boxer. He was Russian, based here. As soon as his career was over, he went home. So I'm sorry, we can't include him in the list. So I've excluded him. I have got a couple on here that were born overseas. However, they started their careers here. They started boxing here. They had the whole careers here. They retired here. They still live here. So that's the difference. So what I'll do, I'll go through them and then I'll put it up at the end if I can get this thing to work. Let's see. Now I'm just going to put that there. All right, guys. So number 10. So bear with me. I'm happy to have your comments in there, whether I'm right or wrong in all of this. What I'm going to do as I go, I'm going to bring these guys up so I can have their careers in front of me, so I don't forget anything. All right. So number 10, I've gone for the Master Blaster, Lester Ellis. He had a 41-8 career, 28 KOs. He won the IBF Junior Lightweight title in 1985 against one Kill You, and only defended it once against Rod Sequenin. Literally like 8 weeks later. It was so soon, and I think another 8 weeks after that he fought Barry Michael. And he obviously lost that. I don't think he got the most out of his career. I think talent-wise, he would be right up there in the top 2 or 3 fighters we've ever had in this country. Didn't achieve what I think he could have, because back then we didn't have the No Limits and DNLs of the world that have those international connections and the TV dollars, and we just didn't have it back then. You're lucky if you got a fight on 7 or 9, or Channel 7 or Channel 9 that is, and it was pretty tough. So I think he did really well. Going overseas was pretty hard as well, unless you had the contacts. So yeah, because of that, I don't think he got everything out of his career. Did have a couple of good fights later in his career against Calvin Grove. Calvin Grove, of course, knocked out Jeff Fennick a couple of years earlier, or might have been that same year that Lester fought him. But I just think I'm a massive fan of Lester. And as I said, I just think talent-wise, easily in the top 2 or 3 fighters this country has produced. He was actually born in England, but raised here, started boxing here, and had his whole career here. That's why he's in the top 10. So that's Lester Ellis, number 10. Before we go on there, I've got another comment about Bivol. Bloody terrible. Can't blame Bivol for Putin's war. Shake my head, I got Bivol over Mando Zerdo too, to be honest. Yep, 100% agree, mate. Yep, and you can't blame Bivol at all either, mate. And I think we also said, just on that fight, we went over it in the deep dive show that even... I was going to say I can understand it, but I don't understand it. In the lead up to it, he wasn't referred to as from being Russia. This is when the war first started, by the way. This is against Canelo. Wasn't referred to as being from Russia. I think they said he was from somewhere in California. They didn't play the Russian national anthem. I thought that was so disrespectful to Bivol. It's not his war. It wasn't his fault. Regardless of what you think of the whole war situation, to say that a Russian... obviously he's a Russian fighter. They wouldn't let him have a Russian flag in the ring or anything like that. And then to say he's from somewhere in California, I would have thought that maybe they would have said, look, because tensions are pretty high, this is only, as I said, just after the war had started, they might have said, look, we don't want the anthem and the flag and all that sort of stuff. It might create a little bit of unrest. But at least say where the guy's from, So insulting to Bivol. And he got the last laugh, of course, because he beat Canelo on his home turf. So that was a funny one. All right, number 9. I've gone for Leicester's arch rival, and that is Barry Michael. Now, this is another fighter who was actually born overseas. He was born in England as well, but again, had his whole career here. Was born there, raised here, career here, and still lives here. Barry Boy Michael was born in Watford in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom, but had his whole career here. Started in 1973 at Festival Hall, had most of his fights there. Won the IBF Junior Lightweight title over Leicester, of course, but fought a lot of other good fights, all Aussie fights, Frankie Ropus, and the other good fight he had was Claude Noel. He actually lost that one, but he fought Hurricane, what was his name, Carter, Al Earthquake Carter, I think it was, and he beat him. He was the American, came over with a 22-1 record and knocked him over. So, so Barry for me. James, that's fine, mate. I want your opinions. I've Costas at number 1. Famishon, born in France. George Cambosis flies a Greek flag. Just my opinion. No, mate, that's fine. Yeah, as I said, Johnny Famishon for me is a little bit different because even though he was born in France, he come over at a very, very young age, started boxing in Australia, had his whole career here, and ultimately died here as well. As I said, Costa from Russia came over at the start of his career, had his career, and then went home. So that's why I just haven't got him. I just don't see him as an Australian fighter. But I understand your point. As I said, put it out there. It's your opinion, and you're well and truly entitled to it, mate. So that's Barry Michael at number 8. But I'm sure you're going to have the same argument with him as well. I've had 2 guys in the top 10 who aren't born here, but, and you are right about George Cambosis as well, I think. That's one thing I haven't really liked that about George, to be honest, where, he wasn't born in Greece. I know he's got Greek heritage, but so is 3/4 of Australia. We've got heritages from England or Europe, or England was in Europe, of course, or, Spain or wherever it might be, Italy. So you don't see all those sort of waving the flags. They embrace Australia. So I can understand if he was born in Greece and come over, maybe that might be a little bit different. But the fact he plays on the Greek thing a lot. Now, I can understand maybe in the lead up to last fight, he wanted to, the extra support and the extra people at the fight. They all pay money, of course. So he played the Greek card. But I'm all for, being proud of your heritage. But do you really have to, with the flag? And I think they even played the Greek anthem, which is absolutely ridiculous. If we did that before every fight, we'd have 6 different anthems playing. We'd have one from the country they were born, one from their heritage, where the country the fight is. So, I don't know. So, mate, I hear you. Number 8, I've gone for the Hitman, Jeff Harding. I'll bring his record up here because I can't have it all up at the same time. Love Jeff Harding in the day. Who can forget that fight with Dennis Andrews? Now, he had a 23-2 record, 17 knockouts. As I said, who can forget that fight with Dennis Andrews? I remember watching it live on TV. It was broadcast live from the States. I think it was in Atlantic City. Massively behind on points and came out in the last round and got the job done. He had blood streaming from his face, from cuts all over the place. I'm looking at the cards here. He was behind on all 3 scorecards going into the last round. So he come out, did the Rocky. He wasn't as far behind as what he thought he might have been, but he was definitely hot behind. Andrews only had to stay on his feet. But he won that. He fought Tom Collins in his first defence. Then he fought Nesta Giovanni in his second defence, and then fought Dennis Andrews again in Melbourne. I was actually at that fight as a young kid. I think I was 16 years old or 16 or 17 years old or something like that. Went to see it, and he got knocked out in the 7th. But to his credit, he came back. He fought Dennis Andrews again in 91. And won the title in England, and then had 2 more defences before losing it to Mike McCallum. So very, very underrated fighter is the Hitman, and I've got him at number 8. Okay, and I don't know what this is for. I'm assuming that's all good. Our opinions there, mate, with the peace sign and the smiles. I don't know why I do these, by the way, because you always upset someone. Not to say I've upset James, but there'll be someone out there, I'll be guaranteed, that'll comment in here and tell me I don't know anything about boxing. And that's fine. Maybe I don't. All right, guys, number 7. So that was the Hitman, Jeff Harding. Number 7 might be a little bit controversial. I've gone for the Anthony the Man Mundine. Now, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap in the scheme of things. He lost a lot of points for me because he had his whole career in Australia. But as far as talent and ability and everything else, I don't think there was many better than Anthony Mundine. 48 and 11, 28 KOs. The 11 losses, though, a lot of them were later in his career. I think he lost, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his last 8, 7 of his last 10. So I don't think you can sort of count them. But what I loved about Anthony Mundine, and I think we just don't want him to be successful. We don't want him to be good. But at the end of the day, he was brilliant. He was brilliant in his day. I think he undone a lot of his good work by going down in weight to junior middleweight. Even going down to middleweight I thought was too much, but going down to super welterweight or junior middleweight, whatever it was, way too far for a guy like him who used to always walk around probably 20 kilos heavier. He fought at super middleweight when he started. That's where he should have stayed. Or worst case, gone down to middleweight, and it was just never the same. Obviously, he had those fights against Danny Green. That first fight with Danny Green was prime Anthony Mundine. That's when he was at his peak. He was absolutely brilliant in that. Disregard a lot of the later fights, especially the Danny Green fight, I will say, but gave so many Aussies an opportunity. He fought Australians and New Zealanders, I will say as well. Even Garth Wood, when he beat Mundine, he came back and avenged that. He fought Daniel Gill twice. Shannon Taylor. I mean, the list just goes on. Guy Waters. Just fought all the Aussies and Kiwis that were out there, and I just think, number 7. And look, if you had even though he did win a legitimate world title, it was an interim title, I think it was, but even though it wasn't a real title, if he had got out of Australia and fought overseas, like he said he was always going to do, I think he would have been a lot higher. But the fact he was based in Australia just took a little bit away from him. That's why Jeff Harding rates so highly as well. Number 6, it's an opponent of Anthony Mundine. I'm talking about Daniel Gill. Very, very underrated fighter as well was Daniel Gill, 2-time world champion. Fought Triple G and Miguel Cotto as well. And a brilliant amateur as well. I know we're not bringing that into that, but 31 and 5, 16 KOs. Went out sadly with 2 losses, knockout losses to Miguel Cotto and Reynold Quinlan. But just a brilliant fighter, Tasmanian. So Tassie Brown will be happy about that. But another very, very underrated fighter. I thought he actually beat Anthony Mundine in the first fight as well. And as I said, went to Germany twice to win world titles. So just a brilliant fighter was Daniel Gill, and he's my number 6. Number 5, I've gone for one of the obviously greatest of all time in Les Darcy. Now I'm probably going to get shit for this as well because people would have had him at number 1 or number 2. But look, at the end of the day, we don't know enough about him, unfortunately. And that's just a fact. We just don't know enough about him to, there's not a lot of footage of him. We're just sort of going by records and, box rec and all that sort of stuff. 46 and 4, 29 KOs. Of course, he died in America. But he was sort of back in the day, you could be recognised as world champion without actually having any belts on the line or anything. You'd just be recognised. In Australia, he was recognised as the world champion. But I think in the States he wasn't. I know that sounds stupid, but he was recognised in some quarters as being world champion. So we've sort of got to put him in there. I can't give you any feedback as far as the quality of the guys fought. I can just go by records of the guys he fought, when he fought them, how many times he fought, historical records, the footage I've seen, and probably a little bit of gut feel. It's not really the way I wanted to go about things, but I've got him at number 5. A lot of people have him at number 1, but I've got him at number 5. Number 4. Now, as I said, I think I said his record, 46 and 4, 29 KOs. All right, number 4, I've got the late, great Johnny Famishon. And I know, James, he was born in France, but as I said, he was raised here and had his whole career here. So he had his first fight back in 1961 at Festival Hall in Melbourne. So if he had had half his fights in France and then come over, then I might listen to you. But in this case, he started his career in Australia. So what have we got there? So, won the WBC and WBA belts in 1969 against Jose Legra. That was in, it was just a WBC title. I'm thinking Alana Rose. But won the WBC World Featherweight title in Kensington in England at the Royal Albert Hall. At the time, Jose Legra was 105 wins and 5 losses, so he was the real deal. So they fought in England. Johnny got the belts. He defended against Fighting Harada twice. and then lost it to Vicente Saldivar in 1970. And sadly had that that accident later in life. He did come good to some extent later in his life, and unfortunately it was a couple of weeks ago he passed. But a true legend of Aussie boxing was Johnny Famishon. Number 3. Again, this might raise a few eyebrows to some, but I've got Dave Sands at number 3. And a lot of these fighters, you know, you could probably throw a blanket over, you know, their position in the top 10. But I've got him at number 3. How's this for a record? 87, 10 and 1. Lost a lot of fights early in his career. 52 KOs. He was ranked number 1 or 2, I think, in the world by the organisations at middleweight. He was supposed to fight Sugar Ray Robinson at one stage, Jake LaMotta at another stage. Didn't quite happen for him, and unfortunately he died young, and we've never seen the best of him. But, you know, 98 fights. And again, not a lot of footage on Dave Sands, going by his records and the opponents he fought, when he fought them, and where he was ranked and everything else. And this is the days too where you couldn't just buy rankings. You couldn't just pay someone for sanctioning fees and to be positioned in the right spots. You had to earn your spot, and he was ranked at number 1 or 2 behind Sugar Ray and Jake LaMotta. So, you know, that's what you got to go on. And as I said, historical records as well. So that was Dave Sands at number 3. Which takes us to number 2. I've got, again, the late, great Lionel Rose. Now, we've actually got Lionel Rose and Johnny Famishon in this week's Dream Fight, so make sure you check that out. I might even see if I can bring it up at some stage and put it in the comments. Where are we? I'll see if I can do that. Now, just bear with me. I'll see if I can bring it up. But Lionel Rose had a 42 and 11 record. A lot of those losses were at the end of his career, though, so we're not going to take sort of too much out of that. Where are we? I'm just going to go to YouTube, and I'm going to put the link in the comments so you guys can check it out. It's this week's, what have we got there? Channel. This week's Dream Fight. So who do you think would win? It's an interesting one. I actually went for Johnny Famishon, I will say. However, Mike and Grant, Tassie Brown, both went for Lionel Rose. So who do you guys think would win? So I'm going to put that in there. I hope that has come up. I think it has. So check that out. I think it's, yep, there it is. So it's come up there. So check that out. That is Lionel Rose versus Johnny Famishon in this week's Dream Fight. So interesting to hear your thoughts. And that brings us to number 1. Probably no surprise. Jeff Fennick, the Marrickville Mauler. What a fighter he was. I'll just bring his record up here. Oh, sorry, I didn't go past Lionel Rose there, did I? Sorry. Beat Fighting Harada for the title. Lost it to Ruben Oliveras a couple of fights later. Beat Alan Rudkin as well, who was a very, very good fighter. So that was Lionel Rose. But yeah, the Marrickville Mauler, Jeff Fennick, my favourite fighter of all time, I've got to say. And yes, if Costa Zoo was in the conversation, who would you have, Jeff or Kostya? I think I'd probably have to maybe just go for Kostya with my head, but my heart would say Jeff. 29, 3 and 1, 21 KOs. Just a brilliant fighter. 3 world titles. Should have been 4. Got ripped off in the States, as we know, and was just never the same fighter after that. So and if you talk to him now, again, check out our YouTube channel. We did the Jeff Fennick, Azuma Nelson first fight in Vegas, the classic fight. We had Jeff on the program or on the episode to discuss it, and it was really interesting to get his insights into you know, what happened in that fight. It was just great to have his input. So, geez, I don't know what I did there. Hang on, got rid of myself. Oh, I'll get rid of me. There I am. I don't know what I've done there. All right. So I'm not going to bring up that. So the list. So anyway, I'll go through them. I'm not going to play with it. I haven't put it in the thing here probably. But 10 was Lester Ellis, 9 Barry Michael, 8 Jeff Harding, 7 Anthony Mundine, 6 Daniel Gill, 5 Les Darcy, 4 Johnny Famishon, 3 Dave Sands, 2 Lionel Rose, and 1 Jeff Fennick. Retired, I will say, with a 10-round decision over Azuma Nelson in 2008. Reports said that Azuma didn't really understand that he was coming over here for an actual fight. He thought it was an exhibition. That's what his side says, but I'm not sure how you would think it's an exhibition and it's actually getting scored surely when they introduce the judges, you would sort of know what was going on. But anyway, but that was my list. Jeff Fennick, number 1 for me. What do you guys think? Put your comments in there. If you've got anything else you'd like to say, guys, put it in there. As I said, this is just a bit of a test episode. I'm really wanting to get to the stage where I can bring you guys on. That's why I wanted to test this new program tonight and just see how the stream went. We'll add a little bit of extra stress to it if I actually bring someone on, because it's got to work twice as hard. But we'll see. I'm glad that it looks like it's worked okay throughout the episodes. So that's the first sign, I suppose, first win that we've had. So I think that's about it for tonight, guys. Again, really appreciate you guys logging on. I know there wasn't a lot of yous, but the ones that did, I appreciate it. Keep the comments coming. Any suggestions you might have, any topics that you might want us to cover. Did have Justin Foote send me a message last week about maybe doing a special on the Fist magazine. Sorry, I just saw the comment in there from Andy there. What have we got? That was a great show with Jeffrey there. Thanks, mate. It wasn't probably my greatest show. I wasn't overly organised tonight. I didn't have a chance to really get on there what I wanted to, but we've still gone for our usual hour. That's the main thing. But as I said, it's more of a test episode in this one tonight, just to make sure everything's working okay and the picture's okay, the sound's okay. And we can look to hopefully get you guys on going forward, because I think how good would it be to actually come on and have a conversation, because that's a lot better than just me up here answering questions and doing all the talking. So we're going to leave it at that, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in as always. Make sure you check out again the Dream Fight, Johnny Famishon, Lionel Rose, and of course the Deep Dive show, which comes out it'll be Thursday morning this week. We're going to record it Wednesday night and do it Thursday morning. It'll come out because we've got the Hall of Fame dinner and a few other bits and pieces on this week as well. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week.